Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all, waves and hugs from a distance. Here with a wonderful person who I'm delighted to have next to me.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, this is Ariel. Many of you have met her, and she's a kindergartner. Oops, don't shake this, please. We joined together tonight as one community in our distant spaces, looking forward to being together in person. And I want to introduce, well, first of all, Rabbi Abby Phelps is with us, Cantor Toby Glaser, Jonathan Dimmock in the sanctuary, bringing us wonderful music, and Gordon Gladstone and our team, who are all out there spread out around the Bay Area. So we welcome you all, and I'd like to introduce Christina Jefferson, who is on our board of trustees, who will welcome us from her home.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Rabbi. I want to say just Shabbat Shalom. My name is Christina Jefferson, pronouns she, her, hers, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees, and I'm also a member of the newly formed Inclusion Committee, which you can find out more about in Under the Dome very soon. Very excited with my co-chair, Stacey Passman. This last week, I had the opportunity to see a friend of mine for her 50th birthday. And we all got to hang out in the park. There's about 10 of us and we were socially distant. And it was an amazing experience, not only because we actually got to see friends and meet new people for the first time in over a year, but also because we had a chance to see some of the best parts of the city, which is sitting in Golden Gate Park on brand new grass. And it was such a weird experience because I don't know who, like, so many adults being so excited about new grass was such a weird experience. And also people honking as they went by and saying happy birthday to her is one of the most amazing parts about being in San Francisco is the willingness to bring joy to other people. And so on this evening, I hope that you all think about the joy of new things like new grass, and also bringing joy to a stranger like those folks did when they just honked or said happy birthday to our friends. So with all of that, Shabbat Shalom.
Beautiful. Yes, we bring joy to each other in so many large and small ways. And I just want to give us a chance to take a deep breath and to think about something that was joyful during this week or something that was really difficult, a little tiny bit of joy maybe that came from someone to brighten an otherwise really hard week. So we do have that privilege to bring joy in large and small ways and to make people's lives better. On Shabbat, we spend a lot of time thinking about other people and walking in nature and thinking about what we might do to connect with others. So it's a beautiful introduction to the beginning of Shabbat. Thank you, Christina, so much. And now I would like to introduce our birthday girl, Dr. Susan Borkin, who is joined by her wonderful husband, Jerry Hurwitz. And we are delighted to have both of you and want to wish you a very, very, very happy birthday. May I have a stream to 120 years old.
Boy, I should live so long. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to
Okay. Will you be chanting for us?
Well, I'll be chanting with the cantor. That would be lovely.
Sure, no problem.
Will you tell us something about your candlesticks? Were they a birthday present? Tell us something about you guys. How are you? Who are you?
We're good. And as we get older and mature, and these are the now famous candlesticks from Milwaukee. We discussed them before. They're slightly cattywampus due to a little breakage, but they're fine now. And is there anyone who might be interested in Barbie-sized candlesticks? What do you know? So here we go.
I know someone who perked up. Yes.
I think you can see them. Okay. So here's Barbie's candles.
They go with the challah, the little challah.
Yes. And here's for the bigger people.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat. Happy birthday, amen.
Happy birthday, and thank you for those beautiful Barbie candlesticks as well. With the light of Shabbat in tall and smaller candles coming in through our screens and in our homes, we welcome Shabbat with song and with music and with prayer. We continue with Shir Ladonai.
שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, וכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו הגויים כבודו, וכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו.
We welcome the angels of Shabbat to join us here and in our space. I know for some of us this week was really difficult, with news that was really difficult, or a diagnosis that was really difficult, things that were very hard. So we bring into our space, for some of us it was a week of joy, and Janet and Chris welcome two new granddaughters, so we celebrate with them as well. It was a different experience for everybody this week, and as we take a moment to just leave the week behind, we also fill ourselves with the spirit of Shabbat and the angels of Shabbat to bring us comfort, to bring us peace, and to bring us some uplift as we welcome this joyous 25 hours where we rest from all of the things that happened during our week. Chadodi.
This is a melody we introduced last week. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם משוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי, אורי שידברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We raise our intentions to greet Shabbat. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובזולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We join together to declare that we are one community, separated all around town, but one community at Congregation Shereth Israel, with these words of Baruch Hu that we chant together.
Another new melody, our nigun to a ya nai nai. Ya nai nai dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Sing it with me. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Barecho et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai.
we acknowledge God's love for us with these words of Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה נגי יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Ari has been working on learning Ve'ahavta, and she's going to chant a little bit of it for us tonight as we chant along with her from our poems.
I'll try and do the whole thing.
Okay.
Sounds great.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ותרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם בכל מצוותי וכם קדושים ללוויהם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוציא יציאתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם קדושים לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Emet, Yasher Koach. I'll just go home. Ari, you want to lead the rest of the service? Just do it. Beautiful chanting. Wow.
Ari decided to teach this to herself, lest you think that I enforce this.
Veshinan tam levanecha. You know, it says it right there in the text.
She's
You got to
been
teach your
listening very
children.
diligently in studio and in all our services, and she learned this. We're very proud of her. We'll continue with words of Micha Mocha, and I'm going to read this poem that I just love, that we've read so many times in the sanctuary. I share it with you now. from our Siddur. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות תוסיפלת, נורא תהילות תוסיפלת, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, יאי די די יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די די די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 dai.
Asking God to help us lie down, to rest, even in this pandemic time when I feel like sometimes I don't get out of my pajamas. My days are long and really, really tiring. Rest seems hard to come by. It feels like just to be able to let everything go and really, truly relax. One of the things that's been particularly hard now. So as we ask God to let us feel God's presence, be sheltered under God's sukkah of peace, may we find just some moments of peace and community and within ourselves to really rest and feel energized again as we come into Shabbat and then find ourselves again tomorrow night together with Havdalah and a beautiful new week.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ושמור צאתנו ובואנו ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ושמור צאתנו ובואנו השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום ועל ירושלים.
As we prepare ourselves for the Amidah, we have the opportunity to set an intention, to think about what it is that we need to pray for this evening, anyone whom we might wish to pray for, anything we might wish to pray for. So I invite you to go ahead and set your own intention and to rise and join us for Adonai Sefatai.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadai-dai-dai, yadai-dai-dai-dai, 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 yadai-dai-dai-dai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you. Oh, my rock, and my Redeemer.
As I have been preparing for our last spring 2021 session of Studio at Cherith Israel this Sunday, hard to believe, I've been doing a lot of reflecting on this long, strange year. Moving our entire program online was challenging, to say the least, but I am incredibly proud of the work that our team has done to make this an engaging and enriching year for our students. One of my favorite traditions that we started this year and that we plan to continue is Stump the Rabbi. At the end of every tefillah, just before students go off to class, we invite them to pose any Jewish question they want, and I do my best to answer. And there are some big perennial questions that get raised. The kids never seem to get tired of hearing me say that we're not quite sure what God is like, or where God comes from, or how God made the universe. But there are some more specific and timely questions as well. Recently, one of our fifth graders, Sigal Weston, asked, "What does counting the Omer have to do with anything spiritual?" Sigal, I think you're out there. I apologize, I don't remember your exact words. I'm doing my best to paraphrase. Now, I loved this question, not least because it reveals a strong baseline of Jewish knowledge. To ask it, one has to already know that counting the Omer is something we're doing right now, and that it is not obviously inherently spiritual, but does come with mystical spiritual connotations. To back up a little bit, the counting of the Omer, in Hebrew Sefirat HaOmer, takes place every year, starting on the second night of Passover and concluding the day before Shavuot, which begins this year on the evening of May 16th. An Omer is an ancient Hebrew measure for grain, which the ancient Israelites would bring as an offering to the temple in Jerusalem each year. Our Parsha this week, Emor, instructs, "When you come to the land which I am giving you, and you reap its harvest, you shall bring to the priest an Omer of the beginning of your reaping. And he shall wave the Omer before Adonai so that it will be acceptable for you." The Parsha continues, "And you shall count for yourselves from the morrow of the rest day, from the day you bring the Omer as a wave offering, 7 weeks. They shall be complete. You shall count until the day after the 7th week, the 50th day, and you shall bring a new meal offering to Adonai." It is from these passages that we derive the tradition of counting each day between Passover and Shavuot, prefaced by a simple blessing, praising God for commanding us to count the Omer. As with so many of our temple-centric Torah rituals, this practice was forced to evolve once the temple in Jerusalem no longer stood. Over time, counting the Omer came to be seen as a form of preparation, helping us to move from the giddiness of our newly won freedom at the end of Passover to the solemn joy and responsibility of receiving the Torah, which we commemorate on Shavuot. The Kabbalists, Jewish mystics, added another layer of spiritual meaning to counting the Omer. They assigned a sephirah, an aspect or manifestation of the divine, to each week and day of the Omer, transforming the counting into an exploration of the many facets of divinity and how we can embody them in our lives. Of course, if you've been coming to Natalie Wiseman's Shomer Shabbat's learning and crafting sessions, you know all of this already. That said, counting need not have a Kabbalistic overlay in order to be meaningful. Our experience of COVID has been a powerful reminder that there is inherent meaning and even spirituality in the act of counting. COVID has tragically necessitated a great deal of counting, of those who have become ill, those who have mercifully recovered, and those whom we have sadly lost. These numbers help us to comprehend the magnitude of the pandemic and to honor those whom it has touched. In addition, when all of our days seem to run together and all our usual rituals and routines have been disrupted, it is critical that we pay extra attention to the passage of time. And this is part of why Rabbi Graf has been sending her weekly missives to the congregation throughout the pandemic. In addition to being entertaining and edifying, they remind us to take note of how far we've come since the start of this pandemic, how much difficulty we've endured, and how much progress we've made. In Jewish tradition, counting is seen not just as a critical activity, but as an expression of love. The Midrash teaches that God commands us to undertake the various censuses that we read about in the Torah, because God demonstrates God's love for us by counting us. I think it is no accident that to count can also mean to have value or significance. Meticulously counting every member of a society is a way of declaring that each individual within that society is unique and essential. Essentially, that each individual counts. This is why it was so important for us all to participate in the recent US Census, and why it's so disappointing that the census consistently undercounts members of certain groups, including people of color and people experiencing homelessness. By failing to fully count these individuals, we imply, whether we wish to or not, that they matter less to us, and we reinforce structural inequalities. My hope is that by 2030, when the next census is taken, we will have come up with some effective strategies for solving this pernicious and long-standing problem. Interestingly, telling is also a synonym for counting, in English and in Hebrew. The English term bank teller, for example, refers to the act of counting out money. And the phrase all told, meaning in total, uses the past tense of the verb tell as a term for counting as well. Though if you thought the expression was all told with 2 L's and an E, don't worry, you are not alone. In Hebrew, the verbs for telling and counting share the same root, stamech pe resh. So does the word sipor, meaning story. And of course, the word sephirah, the term I mentioned earlier for an emanation or an aspect of God. These linguistic associations remind us that counting is a critical part of telling our collective and individual stories. It helps us to assign scale and sequence to events and can be an important aid to memory. We also see the deep meaning of counting in the use of typological numbers in Judaism. For example, the association between the number 7 and completeness, 7 days of the week, 7 weeks to completing the Omer, and the use of the number 40 to indicate something vast, like the 40 days and nights of rain during the biblical flood, and the 40 years that the Israelites spent wandering in the desert. These numbers are more symbolic than literal. They serve as shorthand for layering meaning into our sacred stories. So, bearing all of these complexities of counting in mind, I want to return to the question of why we count the Omer. We count first and foremost because we are commanded to, and because it is a tradition we have received, augmented, and passed on from generation to generation. But at this time of year in particular, we also count our days to ensure that our days count. We count so that we can live with mindfulness and intention, so that we can remember and recount our sacred stories and recommit to our values. We count because that which is counted matters. Though we will formally complete the counting of the Omer over the next couple of weeks, we can take its lessons with us throughout the year. Counting the Omer reminds us to count often all the things that matter in our lives, our days, our blessings, our aspirations, and our loved ones. In counting and recounting these things, we express our gratitude for them, and we imbue them and ourselves with meaning and holiness. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yasher Koach. I love that. I think that it's one of the things that's been really hard during this pandemic is, as you said, counting time, keeping count of time. So how important to take these beautiful Jewish lessons from ancient times and really learn from them in our time when time too is hard to calibrate. Thank you for all those lessons.
Thank you.
We continue our service with Misha Berach.
We do indeed.
ברח אבותינו, מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say
On this Shabbat, we pray for the healing of Shoshana Chana Asher, Rabbi Alexander Duchovny, Michael Enery, Michael Gaines, William Kurian, Leonid Landra Renko, Carolyn Reznikoff, Chris Romano, Agnes Rothblatt, Carolyn Olson-Stellman, and Sam Wiener, and those whom you mention at home and in the chat.
מי שברך אמותינו מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you. And I think, if I may, I'm going to take a small moment of rabbinic privilege to mention also Chaya Batzlata, who's a dear friend who has recently learned of her illness. In addition to praying for all of those in our community who need healing, we also have the opportunity when we come together for Shabbat to celebrate simchas that many of us may be experiencing in our lives. Certainly we know that Susan Borkin has a simcha coming up. She has a wonderful birthday happening on Sunday, and I'm sure many others of you have simchas as well. Feel free to share those with us in the chat. Yes, oh, Susan, nice wave. Adrian's got a good running one again, which she often does, so well done. So if you have a simcha, please feel free to share it, and we will celebrate them all together with Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Amen.
We now invite you to rise once again and join us in praying for a perfected world with Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. And we include among those people, of course, all those who were killed in the terrible tragedy in Israel, as well as all those who are dying of COVID in India and throughout the world. In our community, we remember for Shiva, for the first 7 days of mourning, Carol Hemingway, mother of Dan Himmelstein and Cece Kaufman. And we remember for Shloshim, for the first 30 days of mourning, Mary Alexander and Sigmund Sig Freeman. The perpetual memorials in our community are Dr. Elliot Eisenberg and Judith M. Escalante Melvin. And we observe the following yahrzeits, anniversaries of death this evening as well. Galina Alterman, Stuart Simcha Bernstein, Belle Choder, Larry Dohan, Doris Fenn, Rose Gorbach, Theodore Kelter, Sidney Cronish, Amy Lazarus, Benjamin Merkel, Joseph S.A. Miller, Manuel Pasic, Leon Schoenfeld, Sanford Schwerson, Dorothy Spivak, Belle Tilleen, and David Zuckerman. And to those names we add any that you hold in your hearts this evening or that you choose to share with us in the chat. Please rise or remain standing and join me in the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrei chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal, shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Aseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. And together we say, amen. At this time, we offer the opportunity for some announcements. So Gordon, do we have announcements?
We have announcements. Oh man, do we have announcements? Actually, no, we just have announcements. Well, I'm pleased to remind you that we will be honoring Michael Krasny tomorrow evening at Havdalah. Now, Rabbi Wiener will be doing the interview tomorrow night. Rabbi Wiener likes it when people are on time. So he asked me to remind you that the program will start promptly at 6:30. And will be followed
that
by.
means that I have to introduce everybody promptly at 6:30. So
well, yes,
it
Rabbi,
might start
that,
at 6:35.
Yes, yes, there is that.
I'll try. I'll work
So,
on it.
In any event, so that will be at 6:30. It will be followed by Havdalah, led by our own Cantor Glaser. On Wednesday, the 5th, Rabbi Graf and I will be sitting down with Daniel Sokach, who is the CEO of the New Israel Fund, to talk to him a little bit about, well, what's going on in Israel these days. And apart from the tragedy of yesterday, oh man, is it interesting. If you're not following Israeli politics right now, you are missing a telenovela, the likes of which has not been seen, these many decades. Brazilian scriptwriters would be just dumbfounded following this. Intrigue and legal jeopardy and there's a presidential election in the offing. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, don't they have a parliament? Isn't there a prime minister? Oh yeah, there's a president too. We're going to talk about all of that and a whole bunch of other stuff about Israeli civil society. So you should join us for that. And also on the 14th of May will be, wait for it, confirmation. So the confirmands will be confirmed and then they'll be confirmanded, which is a word that I like to make up. That will be at Shabbat services, unless I'm badly mistaken. Is that correct, Rabbi? Yes, I'm getting a nod of the head in the little box that is Rabbi Phelps. So we look forward to you joining us for that as well. And with that, I throw it back to, who's this going to? Back to Rabbi Phelps.
Rabbi Graf.
Oh, Rabbi Graf, catch.
Surprise. Tomorrow morning, 9:15, Rabbi Phelps will teach Torah. 9:15, yes?
Yeah, I think so, 9:15.
Yes, please join her. Gordon, you forgot to mention the ancient biblical holiday, Chamisha B'mai. This is the last Shabbat when you can talk about that holiday. So if people don't yet have plans for Chamisha B'mai, that would be because it's a made-up holiday by Gordon, which means the 5th of May. And perhaps you don't have plans yet. Please plan to join us for a wonderful new celebration of Chamisha B'mai with the New Israel Fund. I think that might be all of our announcements. And so thank you, Jonathan, for the beautiful music in the sanctuary, and Cantor Glaser, Rabbi Phelps. We're all over the place. Happy birthday, Susan. And anybody else who has a birthday coming up. We will conclude by blessing Shabbat and blessing wine and blessing our freedom.
Yes, and just one last Shabbat plug for the morning minyan. We're going to go through a lot of prayers. 10:30 tomorrow morning. Should be a lot of fun. Please join us.
Sorry, so 9 o'clock, 9:15 Rabbi Phelps, 10 o'clock, 10:30.
You can hang out all morning. We got
And then come back at 6:30 for Havdalah. We're a full service synagogue, folks. Full service.
And
Yeah.
evidently, happy birthday to David Balafi tomorrow.
Oh.
Yay! And we know you guys have nowhere better to go, so we look forward to seeing you all
Ouch.
day.
Now they do. They you can't say that anymore. There's all kinds of play, but it's still better to be with us, obviously. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
L'chaim, l'chaim. And
So Kiddush is next for Ari. We gotta get the kid.
We'll work on that. She's only 6,
Excellent.
so it's not bat mitzvah time quite yet.
So you'll
All
start
right,
off
slow
with
down.
vodka, then not wine, right?
She took a sip of wine last week and she said, ew, why do people drink this? So we're not
Good
quite
thought,
there
kid.
yet.
Hold that thought.
Exactly. I'd like to invite everybody with a challah to hold it up. And I have to say, Ruth, I'm deeply insulted that you have not driven over here tonight to share this particular challah with me. A bite of this would be amazing because I think it rivals your, I can't remember what it was called, but essentially the wonton challah for Chinese New Year, right? Or whatever you made with the green onions and the soy sauce. I understand from Facebook that you have made a special challah for Lag BaOmer. Are you unmuted? Can you tell us?
Yes, apparently I was asked to unmute. This is because Lag BaOmer is often celebrated by picnics and campfires. This is a s'mores challah. So it's a dessert challah. It's got chocolate and marshmallow and some graham cracker crumbs. So
Dessert challah. It could be any time of the day challah. S'mores are good for all the, every hour.
well, I agree.
It's going to be amazing for French toast challah. That's like, wow.
That'll
Over
be
the top.
interesting.
Yeah, over the top. So, all right, I'll have to taste from a distance. So will you lead us and everybody else who has a beautiful but slightly less creative, which is everybody on earth, challah tonight. Please hold up your chalot or your pita or whatever you got over there. And Shira has a beautiful one, and I'm sure there are so many in teeny tiny boxes. I know Jerry didn't make one because he said it's way too messy for him. I feel your pain. I agree with you. Ruth somehow has a clean house. I don't know, behind her. We'll join together with you, Ruth. Oh, Nancy, great. And Shira, all of you ladies who are holding up chalot, will you lead us, please? All right, can you guys unmute? Let's see. Can Shira and Nancy unmute? Gordon, is there a way to do that?
I have just requested their unmutedness.
There we go. Will you three ladies somehow and with cacophony and beautiful
It'll be great.
sound join us, lead us?
Amotzi
Amen. V'te'avon.
Te'avon.
That was almost harmonic, which on Zoom is nothing
impressive.
short of a miracle. Nas gadol, haya kan.
We were listening to each other.
Imagine that.
Yes.
All right, let's conclude with something joyous and wonderful as we end our Shabbat time together and enter into our own Cantor. Yes, and they are all in the choir. I did think of that too. That certainly helps to make things harmonious even on Zoom. So thank you to all of you guys. And I agree, Eric, Ruth's Weekly Challah is the best new tradition to arise from the pandemic. Totally. You know that when we get back together, you're just going to have to make them for all of us. So I hope that you have a lot of yeast.
Or at least bring one over. You know, we're flexible. We don't need like 40 of them.
We have a
3.
commercial kitchen. We can, make it like a whole production line happening.
I've got a stand mixer in my office, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
There we go. I want the s'mores challah for our first reunited Shabbat. Okay, I request it, please. We will join together in something wonderful that the Cantor has chosen for us to conclude our service.
Yes, Lincoln's Nagoon, which I know is a favorite here. Ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Oh.
Shalom.
Well, I think
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.